Hello everyone, this is Adam, and welcome to this episode of 3-Minute Theology. Talking about God can drive you crazy. It really can. Look at me, I'm crazier than a crazy nutcase. Our human brains are so tiny that it can barely comprehend the fullness of this holy mystery. But that doesn't mean that we cannot talk about Him, because He Himself has given us the means to do so. And funnily enough, our starting point is what I just shot down earlier, our brains. Yep, our brains aren't big enough to comprehend the fullness of God, but our brains are the most powerful tools we have if we want to begin somewhere. That's how a teenager talks at my church. Bordering towards annoying. In our talk about God, there is an inbuilt dialectic. Now, what is a dialectic? Is that what we do with our phones? Toot, 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 toot. Dialectic? No. A dialectic is a form of discourse involving two sides. A thesis, an antithesis, and the interaction of both gives birth to a synthesis. We can see the synthesis as something that includes both the thesis and the antithesis in a weird, hard to pinpoint way, kinda like the child to a mother and a father. Our thinking about God always involves a dialectic, a tension between one idea and another giving birth to a synthesis. We saw this on our previous video when we spoke about philosophy and theology. We can talk about God based on concepts we find in philosophy and those revealed to us in theology. We need both. Another dialectic is the concept-image dialectic. Concepts being propositional ideas about God, like God is powerful, God is creator, God is loving, God is... and images being those that cannot be expressed in direct ideas but in metaphorical language and poetry. Concepts and images, we need both. God talk can also involve objective and subjective concepts, or intellect and religious experience dialectic. We can talk about Him objectively using our intellects, and this can be enhanced by our talk about Him using our own experiences, our own subjective religious experiences. Objective and subjective talk, we need both. These are just a few examples, but the tension and uncertainty accompanied by the relief and certainty that the whole dialectic process includes give us a good enough way of talking about God to the best of the abilities of our tiny brains. In a dialectic discourse, the tension drives the whole discussion about God forward. Hopefully, we can begin to see how the dialectic discourse about God is a very appropriate way of talking about Him because it affirms that first, God is extremely beyond our brains to comprehend, thus the need for a non-straightforward method to talk about Him. And number two, that we are not completely helpless, that we cannot talk about Him, because we can, albeit non-simplistically. That's the power of dialectic. So that's it for today. For our next video, we will be discussing the third portion of the introductory part of the series. It is a related concept to dialectic, and hopefully it can answer a few questions that you may have after watching this video. The power of analogous language. See you next!